Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter from TopTechBoy.com, and we are here today with lesson number 25 in our incredible new tutorial series where you are learning artificial intelligence on the Jetson Nano. I'm going to need you to pour yourself a nice big mug of iced coffee. I'm going to need you to boot up your Jetson Nano gear. I'm going to need you to get ready to learn some cool new stuff. As always, want to stop and give a shout out to you guys who are encouraging me over at Patreon. Your support is really encouraging me to continue to strive to produce quality educational material for YouTube. Those of you who are not helping out yet, look down in the description below. There's a link over to my Patreon account. Think about hopping over there and hooking a brother up, helping to keep me in good coffee beans. But enough of this silly self-promotion. Let's jump in and learn some cool stuff today. What we're going to be doing today is in lesson number 25, I gave you a homework assignment, and that homework assignment was to create a moving watermark, okay, a moving watermark using thresholds and mask. And just to remind you of what the assignment was, I will come over here and I think I can fire the program up with a little bit of luck. And this is what I wanted you to do, was to create a moving watermark on top of a live video image. And what we're going to do today is we're going to go through and I'm going to show you how I did this. Okay, give me some feedback down below. Did anybody try to do this? Was anybody successful at doing it? Did you even get close? Where did you get hung up? Everything that you needed to do this has been taught in the earlier lesson. So you had all the commands and all the expertise that you needed. You had the tool bag needed to do this, but could you recognize which tools you needed to actually do it? Well, we will be going over it today, and so never fear. I will take you through it step by step. I will need you to go ahead and open up Visual Studio. And before that, let's make sure that you have the image. And so we're going to come over and come to PiPro, and you need this pl.jpg image. And I'm going to show you where to get that. I'm going to erase it so I can show you how to get it. Move to trash. You will open up your browser, and you will go to the most excellent bacteria-world.com. Yes, you heard it, bacteria-world.com, and then a /pl.jpg, pl.jpg, and then when you get there, you should see this in your browser. Just drag it and drop it into your main PiPro folder, okay? And it looks like it showed up over here. That's good. So now let's come back to the browser, and let's go to www.toptechboy.com. I do need to get out of your way at this point. You can search the website for web camera on the Jetson Nano or Raspberry Pi camera on the Jetson Nano. You'll be brought to this page. You come down, double click on those two, or single click on that page over page icon as such. Come down, right mouse click and copy. Right mouse click and copy. I believe I got that. Let me try one more time. It's feeling a little sluggish today, okay? Now you will come back and open up Visual Studio, and we're going to need to create a new window, a new program. So you come to your main PiPro program, or PiPro folder, and then we're working inside of OpenCV, so you'll click on your OpenCV folder, and then the little plus page icon, and I think that this is going to be OpenCV, and I think we're on like program 14, and let's just call this logo move.py. All right, now we have a fresh new Python program, and I'm going to come over here and right mouse click, and with a little luck, paste. Yep, we got that starting program. This is just the program that fires off the camera. You guys should be familiar with it at this point. And since I'm on the Pi cam, I'm going to uncomment out the cam set line and uncomment out the cam, and this will fire off the Raspberry Pi camera. If you happen to be using a webcam, instead of that, you would uncomment out this single line of cam is equal to cv2.video capture. It'll either be a 0 or a 1 on this parameter, and that should be able to fire off most webcams. Okay, I also like to always, for good measure, after I do my cv2.im show, I like to move that window. So I'm going to say cv2.move window. What window am I going to move? Nano cam. And then where am I going to move it? I'm going to move it to 0, 0. And that way I always keep my windows organized. And that window is going to be up in the upper left corner of the screen. Let's run it to make sure we didn't break anything. Okay. Very nice, as expected. You can see that it's working. So now I'm going to queue out of this. And now let's start queue out of this, man. All right, there it is. Now let's jump in and let's start working with that logo. Okay. Now the problem is, like, okay, let's just load in the logo, make sure that we can read that. So we are going to come up here to the top, and after we get our camera set up and all of that nonsense, this would be a great place to just jump in here. What is this? Okay. We're going to jump in here, and now I'm just going to load an image that I'm going to call PL for the Python logo, and that's going to be cv2.imread. And then what am I going to read? I am going to read that file, which I believe we called program logo.jpg. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to do an IM show, and what am I, or cv2.im show. And what am I going to show? I am going to show in the window. We will call it logo window, and then we're going to show the image PL that we just read in, and then we are going to do a cv2.move window so we will be able to see it. And what are we going to move? We are going to move logo window, and then where are we going to move it? I'm going to move it over 700 because I don't want it, behind that main video window, and I'll go down 0. Now the one other thing that we need to do here is we really don't know what size that logo is, so we want to kind of, well, let's just take a look at it. We'll just run it and see what it looks like here. Run Python file in terminal. Okay, there it is. Boom. You can see that that's way too big. So I'm going to quit out of this. Well, let me show you one more thing here. Okay, you see what the challenge is? If I just move that logo around, it's got a white box over it, and it really looks bad. So we're going to have to do our thresholding and masking to just get the logo moving around and not the logo with the white box. That's kind of where all the stuff is that makes this not as easy as it would otherwise be. You can also see that this is way too big, so we're going to quit out of this, and we're going to do a quick resize. And after we read it in, we are going to do a CV2, or I guess I should say that the PL is equal to CV2.resize. I'm going to resize what? I'm going to resize PL. And then it wants the size as a tuple. I'm sorry I'm coughing. I'm getting over a cold. I feel really great. I just got a little of the remnant stuffiness. And the thing is, I made like 6 videos today, and so you're going to think that I have a cold that lasted like 3 months, but just understand I made all the videos on the day after I was getting over a cold. Okay, so we're going to resize PL, and it wants a tuple. We're going to resize it to 75 pixels by 75 pixels, and now that should be a nice little logo for us to move around. So let's run it. Okay, and you can see there it's a nice little logo. What's the problem? It's got a white background, so we've got to start doing our masking and thresholding. What is the first thing that we do? Can you tell me? You got to make the color image grayscale. Okay, grayscale. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an image called PL Gray, and that is equal to CV2.convert CVT color. So we're going to convert the color. And what are we going to convert? Well, our original image was PL. Our original image was PL. And then how are we going to convert it? We are going to do a CV2.color, CV2.color, and then underscore, we're going to go from blue, green, red, BGR to what? Gray. Okay, BGR to gray. And I think you can see that. Okay, so now PL Gray should be a gray image. And let's go ahead and show that CV2.im show. And then what are we going to show? Let's show logo. Let's show logo gray. And then what would that be? That is PL for Python logo gray, right? And then let's move that over a little bit. So we're going to do a CV2.move window. And then what are we going to move? We are going to move LG gray. LG gray. And then where are we going to move it? We're going to move it over 800 and down 0. Okay, I think that should probably work. So let's go ahead and run it. So now we should have a grayscale image copy of that original logo. Okay, boom, there it is. You see? All right. Now we got a grayscale. Now we need a what? We need a mask. So now we are going to create the mask. And you should recognize a lot of this from last week's lesson. Okay, so let me come down here. So I'm going to create the mask, and I'm going to do that by doing a threshold on that grayscale image. And so a threshold returns 2 parameters. We don't need the first one, so I just put underscore, so there's a slot for it to go in. And then what do I want? I want the background mask. BG mask. I am going to create the mask from that grayscale image, and I'm going to do it by thresholding. So I'm going to say CV2.threshold, and then what do I want to threshold? I want to threshold that grayscale image, PL gray, that I just created. Okay, and then where do I want to threshold it? Well, I'm not really sure. I'll just say 100. So if it's brighter than 100, I'm going to make it white. Okay, so if that pixel by pixel is greater than 100, I'm going to call it white. And then if it's not greater than 100, it will just stay black. And then how do I want to do it? I want to do it with a CV2, what method? The THRESH, thresh underscore binary. Now there's different thresholding methods. It's just the binary is the simplest and most useful one. It's either goes to the 255 or it stays at 0. So everything's kind of like a 0 or a 1, and it doesn't get much simpler than that. Okay, so now I think you can see that. So we will go on to the next line. So now I'm going to copy and paste this IM show and move window so we can move things along a little bit quicker. And so I will paste this here. So here, what do I want to see? I want you to look at the background mask that you just created. Okay. And background mask. And you guys understand this first one is the name of the window and this is the name of the image. Okay. And then what do I want to look at here? What do I want to move? I want to move background mask. I want to move that window. And this time we're going to come on over to 1,000. Now let's go over 900. I think we're just skipping over 100 at a time. Okay, now let's look at this. Okay, boom. You see, here's my mask. What is wrong? The threshold was set. The threshold was set too low because it's letting too much stuff turn in. Okay, it's making too much of the stuff white. All right, so I need to increase that threshold level. You see, all of this was counted as foreground. Way too much was counted as foreground. So let's go. So let's see. Too much was counted as foreground, so I need to make that lower. Okay, I need to make it lower. So I let too much in. I need to be more restrictive. So let's say like 25. If it's greater than 25, it's just, I always get this backwards. I think it should be much higher, which will make it more restrictive, right? So you got to be really bright. You got to be brighter than 245 to be kicked up to 255. That should make all that gray stuff black. Okay, boom. That looks very nice. So Grayscale image, if you weren't really, really, really very close to white, you went back to black. Now this is my background mask. Why? Because the background is white. Okay, that means I'm going to add something with that white, and then that's going to be my background. All right, does that make sense? All right, well, if I have the background mask, I am also going to need the what? The foreground mask. So we're just going to get all of our masking done right now. So the foreground mask is the opposite of the background mask. So the easiest way to make that is just say foreground mask is going to be equal to cv2.bitwise, and the bitwise, what? A bitwise underscore not. Okay. So the foreground mask is not the background mask. And so we will put here background mask. And this should create something that's the opposite of the background mask. So foreground and background masking should be opposite. So let's show this real quickly by copying and pasting. And then what we're going to want to do is this will be foreground mask. And this will be foreground mask. And this will be foreground mask, like that. And then we ought to come over, say, 1000. Okay, run Python file in terminal. Okay, boom. I got the background mask where the background is white. It's a mask, so I can add this with the background. And then here, the foreground is white. And so this is the foreground mask. I can add this with the foreground, and then I will have what I need. Okay, so now let's go ahead and quit this. I think I can go ahead and make my foreground now, right? Because I have the foreground is a fixed image. It's a still image, so I can do the foreground, actually create it up here. And so how do I do that? Well, the foreground is going to be equal to cv2.bitwise underscore and. So I'm going to and. What am I going to and? Well, I am going to and that original Python logo, and got to put it twice, right? Python logo, Python logo. We only have one image, so we got to write it down twice. That's just the way the parameters are. And then what is my mask going to be? My mask is going to be equal to the foreground mask. Okay, so the foreground image is that Python logo anded with my foreground mask. And then let's go ahead and show that. And copying and pasting makes things go a little faster. So this is just going to be foreground, 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 and let's come over 1100. So let's run this and look at it. All right. Okay. See, I've got my original logo. I turn it into grayscale. I turn it into a background mask, and then I go ahead and I create my foreground mask by flipping, making the colors opposite, making the mask opposite, and then I and this with the original image, and now I just end up with the logo against a background of black or a background of zeros. Okay, so now I could add this to the background, and I could get the little block that I want. Does that make sense? So the foreground is done. The background mask is done. What do I need to create now? I need to create the background. I can't create the background up here because the background is going to be gotten from that video. So I've got to do that down in my while loop. I hope that makes sense, okay? I hope that makes sense. So before we go down there, though, let's go ahead and do a little bookkeeping here before we go into the while loop, because you know that we're going to want that box to move. So I better define the dimensions of that box, right? The box that's moving around. So I'm going to call that the box width. I'm going to go ahead and create a variable box width, and we're going to make that 75 because it's got to be the same size as the mask is, which was 75. And then I'm going to create a box height, and I'm going to say that is 75. So now box width by box height will be the same size as the mask. And you can see I'm going down to create a region of interest, and that region of interest has to be the same size as the mask, and so I'm going to create the dimensions here. All right, what else do I know? Well, I know that I got to start the box somewhere, so the X position, let's just say it's at 10 pixels over, and then the Y position, let's say that it's 10 pixels down. You can kind of start it anywhere, it doesn't really matter. And now I need to kind of have a change direction. Remember, the dx is how many pixels do I want to move the box each time through the while loop? Well, I'm going to move it dx equal 1. That's in the x direction. Then in dy, how far do I want to move it? 1 pixel. So I'll say dy is equal to 1. Okay, so I've got this mask, and I've got this foreground image. Now I'm starting to work on the background image. The background image is going to be a region of interest of the video, and so I'm putting the parameters up here to create that region of interest. All right, so now let's go on down into the while loop. We're still going to read frame. Okay, we're still going to read frame. But what we are going to do is we are going to create a region of interest. And so CV2 dot, no, I'm sorry, we'll just call it region of interest, is going to be a part of that video frame. Okay, so what part is it going to be? Well, we're going to take the frame, and remember, when we use this frame command, we're treating frame as a matrix. So we start with rows and then columns. It's rows, comma, column. And so rows are the Y values, right? So I'm gonna create a region of interest frame. I'm going to create a region of interest that will go from Y position, which we defined up there, to where? Y position plus what? The box height. Okay, so I'm grabbing those rows, and now I need to grab the columns. So I put comma, and the columns are going to go from X position to where? X position plus box width, right? X is this way, it's columns, so I go from the starting X position to X position plus box width. I'm taking that, I'm grabbing that range of columns. Okay, now I have a region of interest. Okay, and now what I want to do is, let's go ahead and show that. Okay, let's just go ahead and show our region of interest. So I will, no, I'm going to go ahead and just say that the region of interest background, right, which is what I wanted all along, is going to be a cv2.bitwise underscore and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take ROI and ROI, right, with the bitwise, I got to give it the image name twice. And what am I going to mask it with? Okay, I want the background mask. Okay, now that we will go ahead and show. Okay, so now we are going to do a cv2.imshow. And what are we going to show? We're going to show that ROI background. Okay, and comma ROI background. And then we're going to go ahead and move that over cv2.move window. And we're going to move which window? ROI BG. And we're going to move it over how far? 1200 pixels and 0 down. 1200 across, 0 down. Okay, so this should create a little background image off of the video. Okay, look at that. All right, so let's go across here. This is our original logo. Then we grayscale the logo. Then we create a background mask. Okay, we create a foreground mask. We and the foreground with the original image, and we end up with the foreground image. Now what we need is the background image. So we are going to take the background mask, and we are going to and it with a region of interest in the video window, and then we get the background. But the thing about the background is it's live. You see that background is live because it's a region of interest. Now tell me what we need to do. We have a background image and we have a foreground image. What do we need to do? We need to add them together. And this is just a straight add because remember that black is 0, so I'm adding a real image to 0 and I'm adding a real image to 0. And so if we just add those things together, magic will happen and we will get what we want. Okay, so what do I do here? I come in and let's see, I am going to call this a, so that was ROI. I'm going to call this ROI new. Okay, so it's going to be in that same range, but this region of interest new is going to be just a cv2 dot add. And what am I going to add together? I'm going to add the foreground to the ROI background. Okay, I'm adding the foreground to the ROI background. And then what I can do is I can show that, and probably the easiest thing would be to just swipe a little code up here. All right, so I will do a Control V. And so now I'm going to show ROI new, move ROI new, and this is ROI new. And we'll come on across 1300. So this is going to be taking the background, which was the region of interest mask, and the foreground, and it's going to add those together. Okay. And someone is not happy because I didn't put an I in there, ROI. All right. Now look at this. Okay. I've got the original image. I grayscale it. I threshold it to make a background mask. I flip it to make a foreground mask. I take the foreground mask ANDed with the original image, I get the foreground image. I take the background mask and I AND it with the region of interest and I get the background, okay, and that background is live, right? And then I simply add the background to the foreground, and then I get this icon, which is a region of interest where the background is live video. Now what do I need to do? I need to take this and I need to put it back into the whole image, the whole video, right? The video. I need to add this little ROI back into that original frame. So let's do that. And how do we do that? Well, we're going to come across here and we're going to say that matrix, which matrix frame, our original image, but we're going to go in and we're going to work on a part of that, which we indicate with square brackets. So we're treating it like a matrix. And I want to go from the rows y pos to the rows y pos plus box height. So that's getting those rows in the original image. All right. And then also I want to go from xpos to xpos plus the box width. So I'm getting that little square of the video and I'm going to put back into that. What am I going to put back into that? You guys tell me. Is somebody screaming what I should put back into that? I'm going to put back into that ROI new. And really for good measure, I need to just call that ROI and ROI. It didn't crash because they were the same and it doesn't matter what you name a window. That was the window name. The file name was right. But now I'm going to take this ROI new, which was that little composite, and I'm going to put it back into the original frame. This is going to run. Guaranteed. What did it not like about my ROI new? Oh, that looks right. This is quite perplexing because that ROI new sure looks good. Y position it didn't like. Did you guys catch that? Y position. This time, I'm serious. For real, this time it runs. I'm perfectly relaxed. Boom. Okay. Now look at this. You see, over here is that ROI new. And now I put the ROI new back into the original frame. Okay. And so I have this nice little logo without the white background. Okay. Now though, what do we want to do? We want to animate it. Okay. We want to animate it. We want it moving around. So to move it around, what do we need to do? Well, it's really pretty simple. We just got to, every time the loops through the loop, say we're going to change the X position. X position is equal to X position plus dx. And Y position is equal to Y position plus dy. All right. Now, if I just did this, I would get a what? I would get a jailbreak because it would come down to the end and then it would keep going off the screen. Actually, in this case, because I am doing these indexes, it wouldn't jailbreak. It would actually crash when it got to the edge because you would be trying to index a part of the matrix that isn't there. You would have like an out of range matrix error. So what we got to do is we got to make it bounce now. So how do we make it bounce? Well, we're going to say if X position is less than or equal to 0, that means it's come all the way to the left and it's hit the left wall of the window. Well, if that happens, or If it hits the right window, so or the right of the window, or if X position is greater than or equal to what? Well, it would be, I'm sorry, if X position plus box width, so I'm looking at the right edge of the box, so that's box position plus box width, when that hits the right of the screen. So when that is greater than or equal to display width, that means the edge of the box has hit the edge of the screen. And if that happens, what do I want? I want to change direction. So dx is equal to dx times minus 1. You notice how I always use parentheses as a math teacher. I think order of operations are important, and it just really forces you to have the right order of operations with those parentheses. Okay, similarly, I'm going to say if y position is less than or equal to 0, or if y position plus box height is greater than or equal to, this time we're interested in the display height. That means we've hit the bottom. We want to bounce, which would mean dy is equal to dy times minus 1. All right, that looks pretty good. I think this should make this thing move. What do you think? All right, let's run. Here it goes. All right, a boom. Look at that. Look at that. Moving, moving, moving. Now the real question is, will it hit the wall and bounce without crashing? That if I put those if statements wrong, it'll crash. And we probably, okay, hit the bottom one, okay. Right wall is okay. You really need to let it hit all the walls to make sure that all those if statements are right. That looks good. The other one is we need the left wall. And boom. All right, guys, we have this working. You are now thresholding and masking masters. This is some pretty neat stuff. Okay.